somebody like, Tom Vassell, poor Tom Vassell probably couldn't even pick these things up. Hey everybody, Blake here, and today I'm taking a look at Kradia. We're gonna go with Kradia, Wild Hunt Festival, a JRPG-inspired cooperative game for 1 to 4 players where you take on the role of heroes who are trying to take down boss monster after boss monster. This is another kind of boss battler game, and if you stick around, I'm going to tell you whether I think Kradia may be one of your new favorite cooperative games or whether you should just stick to playing Final Fantasy. Okay, so I want to give you just a general idea of how a round works in Kradia. This is not meant to be a rules overview, it's just a general idea so you can kind of see how gameplay works. So in the game, you're always going to have 4 heroes active, and there's a mix of defenders and healers and attackers. Your goal is, in theory, to have a little bit of a balanced team, typical to most RPG types. You're going to have a little battlefield card that's going to apply different effects each round, and you're going to have a boss monster, and the boss is going to have hit points, a rage meter, and different attacks that it can do. Your character boards are going to have your mana, your max health, your charge attacks, any different ailments or conditions, physical or mental, your character is going through, and then the unique attacks for that character. So to start the game, the active player, and so we'll just give our active player marker here to the Paladin Rossi, and the active player would pick a battlefield. So this would put us on the moon. This is not the actual marker, but just for the sake of this, I'm going to use it. So that would put us there, which is telling us that the active player would gain a red and a blue mana. So the active player gets a couple different options. So first being basic attack. A basic attack automatically would do 1 damage to the boss, and it would allow that player to gain a mana based on where the boss's health is. So you could see here the health alternates blue and red, and also there's a little dice symbols underneath. So if the boss's health is on blue, after the attack, you would gain a blue mana. If the boss's health was on red, you would gain a red mana. So we're just going to play around so you can kind of see how this goes. So Aras wants to do a basic attack to get 1 damage on the boss. The health is on red, so our paladin would gain a red mana. Mana is important because your more powerful attacks will require you to then spend that mana. However, you have to build up your mana in a way. And in the challenge mode, you don't get any items. It's just, you would start out max level, so the player boards don't currently represent that, but your characters would be maxed out. But things like mana, your best way to get it is by a basic attack. That's that entire player's turn. Thoro, our attacker, they're going to try our second option. So we've got a basic attack, or we can do a charge attack. So we roll the die. Let's, for example's sake, roll again. Perfect, a 6. So a 6 allows us, a 6 is a miss on this character. However, we would get 2 blue and 2 red mana, which is still pretty good. However, if you were to roll a 6, you could actually choose instead to take the 4, which would be 2 damage to the boss, or the 2, which would be a miss but gain 1 mana. And additionally, same thing with odds. So if I rolled a 5, I could take a 3 or a 1 action. But for this, we're going to take the 6, and we would just say, I'm missing my counter, but we would just say that they gain 2 mana each there. Perfect. On to our peddler over here, who is our healer, Manad. Manad, let's pretend Manad had the mana. She could choose to do throw holy water. I would spend the 2 mana, choose 1 hero, they remove all ailments, and gain 3 health. That would be that player's turn, and then we'd go back to the last player, and they might decide they don't have any mana, they don't want to risk doing a charge attack, they're just going to do a basic attack as well. And so the amount of damage you do to the boss is important because at the end of the player turn, the boss is going to get to take a turn. And depending on where its health is at, it's going to get to roll that many dice. So you can kind of be strategic about how much damage do we want to do so that the boss doesn't end up with maximum dice to roll. So again, we're just going to pretend like it's got 4 dice to roll here. So we roll for the boss, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we would look at what does 13 do? Flare Storm. This little symbol's telling us that all players in the party are going to lose 2 health and get poisoned. Poison is an effect that would deal 1 damage at the start of that player's turn until it is remedied. Additionally, the boss would gain a rage token after each attack, and once it reaches the final slot there, it does a really hurtful, powerful thing. And that is really how it goes. You essentially get 1 action of the 3, basic attack, charge attack, or ability. You will do that, all players will take their turn, the boss will attack, and then you move on to the next battlefield.
My favorite thing was definitely the artwork. There's a nice graphic on the front for the player boards, and then if you turn on the back, there's a super cool anime drawing going on. Symbols are pretty easy to identify, so artwork was top notch.
I really like that the game is focused on team building, that it's kind of us against the board, and so learning how to strategize together, not feeling like we're competing against each other in other games.
Yeah, and as the gameplay went on too, I thought it was fairly intuitive. At the beginning, understanding what all the symbols and orientation on the cards meant took a minute, but as we got into it, it was actually very straightforward to see how these cards work together with the game.
Yeah, I never played a game like this before, but it was kind of cool that you have to kind of strategize to whoever goes next after you so they don't die.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose the players, so.
Yeah. I kind of wish the players had done a little bit more. I feel like it took a minute to kind of get your special attacks to enter into the game versus being able to use them pretty quickly. I think we spent a lot of time strategizing on how to get through the board, but not so much seeing what each individual person could do.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. The special attacks for the different people were. I mean, I don't know what you guys could have done, but I had one that I wanted to do and I did it. But sometimes it's just more practical to do a basic attack. So.
I think the battlefield card could have been a lot larger than the individual player cards. I didn't know half the stuff that was happening for each battlefield, and it was actually pretty consequential.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to have a little more vantage point on that.
Yeah. A good board game or like a map or something would be cool.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one that you could take to, if you're doing a retreat or something, because it's simple enough for people who, even if they're not gamers, to understand. But if you do have a group of gamers, you could take it up to the next level. To play again.
So I'm a little torn on Kradia. I think there's things I definitely like, and there's some things that for me could use a little bit of improvement. I do think as a just sort of standard cooperative heroes versus villain kind of game, I think it does a lot of things well. I think the combat is pretty standard. I think it isn't a game that's super prone to quarterbacking because you've kind of got your character and you know the things that you can do. At least in my playthroughs of the game, I didn't find most players were too concerned with their, taking over their teammate's turn. It was sort of about optimizing their character and what they thought made the most sense. So I like that it felt like there's some autonomy built in a little bit there. But, if you have a Tom Brady in your group, there's still opportunities for that. It is a cooperative game. I love the artwork. I'm a big anime fan. A few JRPGs that I do like as well. And so it was really the artwork that drew me into this game. And I have to say, I think that is what will probably draw most people into this game. If you have someone who is a fan of JRPGs, maybe they're not really into board games, I think this is one that you could definitely get their interest in playing or would be a good gift for them. However, if you have someone who does not like cooperative games, doesn't like this art style, I don't know that mechanically there's anything in here that's really going to convert them to liking this game. I like that there's a good amount of characters to play from, a good amount of villains to play or bosses to fight against. So there's a good amount of replay ability here from either just setting up the sort of one-off boss fights or setting up the story mode, which, to be fair, I didn't find the story mode that engaging in the sense of, it's just sort of a way of stringing together several different boss fights. It does include some different elements like items that come into play that won't come into play if you're just doing the one-off fights, but I felt like it's just really an added mode. So for my negative, I think that it has a lot really to do with the components. I think the game on the table looks really boring for me, and I hate to say that, but this is one, you can call me bougie, but I love a game with table presence. I love a game where you look at it and you're like, you want to know what's going on. You want to know what the game is and how it plays. And this is one, in theory, I would feel that way, but with the way it looks on the table, it's one that I would probably just walk right by because it is just so flat. It's so minimal, which, you know, helps to keep the cost low. You know, not every game needs miniatures and standees and all of these, you know, metal coins and whatever. But sometimes less isn't always more. And I do wish there was a little bit more in this game. Whether it was like, I don't know, acrylic standees that just would kind of show your characters up against this larger boss character. Just something to have the game not be so physically flat. I also think the text on the cards is a little small, and my least favorite part of this game are the little counters that you use. Each character, you have about 9 counters that you're putting on your character and moving around and manipulating. They are so tiny and hard to manipulate and move around. I mean, you know, like, I feel like I got, you know, average size claws here, but somebody like, you know, Tom Vassell, poor Tom Vassell probably couldn't even pick these things up. They're just very difficult to manipulate. And I get that they make sense for the size of the boards, but it became a burden to place those and keep them where they're supposed to be. So my final thoughts on Kradia Wild Hunt Festival. I think it is a game, if you're a JRPG fan like myself, or you know someone who's a JRPG fan, I think this is a game that they might really enjoy. Like I said, the core components of it are simple but fun. I'm not a solo gamer, so this isn't one, you know, that converted me to solo games, but if you have a solo gamer, there's enough game in here to keep them having fun for a little while. However, if you are not a JRPG fan, or you can see the artwork here and it doesn't really inspire you, I don't know that the gameplay is going to knock you out of your chair. I don't know that they've really reinvented the wheel here, or invented the wheel, whatever the phrase is. It's pretty standard, but with this, for me, really interesting theme and artwork pasted on. I just wish there was a little more of it. I wish there were larger components. I wish the game had a little bit more table presence. But as a cooperative boss battler game, I think it works. So those are some of my thoughts on Kradia Wild Hunt Festival. I'm curious how important theme and artwork and table presence is for you, or if it's all about gameplay. Let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.